Hey guys, in this video we'll take a look at 3 winning Space Marine lists from recent tournaments and analyze what made them so successful and how we can use that to make us better players and win more games. So without further ado, let's dive right in, and I'm really interested to show you these particular ones. They are very cool. So the first one is actually a Shadowmark Talon Vanguard list that took 3rd place at a 63-player 5-round grand tournament in Ohio, USA on October 11th by Conan, Jennings. So as you can see, this is a reasonably classic if you know how the Shadowmark Talon lists are typically structured. This one is very similar to what you would expect, and let's just walk through that really quickly. So we have Aethon Shaan, which is a must-have for this detachment because he gives us access to the free uppy downy stratagem. He gives you a potential access to a charge reroll, although it's conditional that you must charge if you use that ability for the units that are in range, of your Space Marine units that are in range if they want to benefit from the charge reroll. So that is also useful. He gives himself a free heroic or free rapid ingress. That's also cool. And he's just a great beat stick. He has 7 attacks, 5/2/2 with sustain hits 2 and twin link. So he's great at chopping up characters and just like infantry, like Space Marines, Space Marine equivalent stuff. He's really gonna be dangerous against all that. And with a 14-inch move, it means that there's essentially nowhere that he cannot go. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a phobos keyword, which means that he cannot advance and charge. He also cannot reactive move 6 inches. It's weird that he doesn't have it and Shrike does, but I guess his armor maybe is a bit heavier, so it makes him not really phobos. But even still, he gets a potential reactive move for D6 anyways. And yeah, he gets a free uppy downy, so you can uppy downy himself, and then you can rapid ingress after that himself again. So he's really a really good character. I have a captain with jump pack who has Hunter's Instinct. So Hunter's Instinct is the one that gives you an ability, your squad, an ability to come from reserves a turn earlier, and this guy is going to be joining 10 Vanguard veterans with jump packs. And I would assume that he is joining the 10 Vanguard veterans with storm shields and Vanguard veteran weapons, where Shrike is probably going to join the guys with pistols. Reason being is if you come from deep strike, you're not shooting in front of pistols. If you rapid ingress, you will. But I don't know, for some reason it feels like it's going to be Shrike because he gets access to the strat for advance and shoot, advance and charge. So you get extra efficiency from using that on the guys with Shrike because you can then do both things at the same time in the same turn after advancing. And you really want to get the advance because you want to get into melter range with all the guys with those pistols. That's when they do maximum damage. So that's how I'm reading that. And there's, of course, the Lieutenant with a combi weapon who has the Coronal Susurrant, which is essentially our Lord of Deceit aura. So within 12 inches, any stratagems your opponent uses are extra 1 CP in cost. 5 intercessors are on our home objective, a classic choice, nothing bad about them. They are good. Sergeant has a power fist, they will stick at the objective and they can go somewhere else, for example, a natural expansion objective, and within like a turn of advancing, they will get there and they can stick it at as well. So yeah, the intercessors are just a pretty good, solid choice. I would probably in this list also have chosen them instead of any other 80 points or lower unit choice. We have also 2x5 assault intercessors with jump packs. These guys are genuinely good. They cannot advance and charge in this detachment. They also don't get like a melee buff, so these two things usually are the ones that make jump pack intercessors like extra efficient, but at least they are cheap. They get 2 OC2 from Shaan, so they are good at contesting objectives versus some chaff that your opponent has, and they're still efficient into those lower toughness kind of 1 wound, 2 wound models, and with the mortal wounds they're probably gonna do enough damage to cause you to control the objective instead of your opponent's scoring unit. Now finally, the meat and potatoes of this list. So we have 6 Centurion Devastators. These ones are with the Twin Blast Cannons and the Centurion Missile Launchers. We have another 3-man squad of Centurion Devastators with the same loadout. We have 6 Inceptors with Plasmas and 2x3 Inceptors with Assault Bolters. So let's unpack that a little bit. Obviously, the Centurion Devastators are going to be the main recipient of uppy downy, so they're going to go up, drop down, and then shoot another target. You cannot, unfortunately, advance and shoot them as well in this detachment because they're not Phobos, even though you do have that ability for Phobos units specifically. So you really kind of want to be in the area where you have the targets for them to shoot at. So you need to be careful with these guys because they really are limited in terms of their lines of fire. But if they find something to shoot at, they will be very efficient against it. The fact that they reroll their own hit rolls against things on objectives and they reroll their own wound rolls as well for the twin last cannons means that they're not as reliant on Oath of Moment, which is good because you want to have that Oath of Moment for the Inferno pistols on the Vanguard vets, you want to have that for the Inceptors, and generally speaking, it's good to have something that is flexible. That's why in this detachment in particular, I really value the Lancer, Gladiator Lancer, because he is good even without access to Oath of Moment. Of course, the 2x3 Inceptors with Assault Bolters, they're here as well for the purposes of allowing you to cover more of the board. The 3-man is still pretty good against like infantry that is somewhere in your opponent's back lines. The only problem with that again is the low AP. So AP1 can really cause trouble for you if you're shooting at something that has a 3+ save and they have some models in cover, and you're not using the 1 CP strat to make you go up in AP. So you're still at AP1, your AP is being ignored. So you're essentially giving your opponent a natural save, and it never is good, especially if you're shooting against something that is 3+ or, God forbid, 2+ save. And that's one thing that I don't trust the Inceptors, the Bolter Inceptors at. The Plasma, on the other hand, I can trust all the time because of their high AP. And you can go even higher, obviously, if you use that stratagem. So I like the fact that it's 2 units by 3 because it gives you ability to cover more of the board. But at the same time, yeah, the Assault Bolters, they're just there. You need to know where to point them at. If you don't, if you're a bit frivolous with them, it's very easy to just do nothing with them. Even though on the paper, their profile looks just amazing. Sustain hits 2, twin length, strength 5, damage 2, all that looks nice until you see the AP1. AP1 is kind of the bane of the Raven Guard, to be honest. It's on the Vanguard veteran weapons, it's on the Bolter Inceptors, it's on the Jump Pack Intercessors. It's like one thing that's holding this list and this chapter back, in my opinion. So overall, great job by Conan. I like the list. It's very well balanced. It has good scoring potential. It has enough melee threat to be at least somewhat of a concern. I mean, Vanguard veterans, not really dangerous in combat. Jump Back Intercessors also not really dangerous in combat. Shaan is kind of okay, but I think the idea is just to throw enough stuff at the opponent to make them like just wait there for a turn, and then once your reserves arrive, things should ease up a bit. So that's kind of how this list plays. I can easily see how it can take the 3rd place, and I'm sure with some like amount of luck, this is a list that can potentially also win a big tournament because these guys are powerful and there's a lot of potential to just win on points as well with them. But I do see those intrinsic issues with the Raven Guard specifically because of the limitations of the Space Marine Codex, which is what I think is holding back the Shadowmark Talon from being a more popular choice. Great job, Conan, and we continue. Hey guys, a moment of your time. You've probably seen our painted armies in the battle reports. Just a quick reminder that anything you see on this channel can be painted for you too through our commissioned painting studio. We'll take that pile of gray plastic and turn it into something that you'll be proud to put on the table, handling everything assembly, mechanization, painting, basing, so you can focus on actually playing the game. Whether it's one squad or a whole army, grab a free no obligation quote at the link below, even just to plan for the if and when. Thank you. Next is Fred Fortman with his White Scars Gladius Task Force detachment list. So this is like pre-White Scars new detachment tournament. So I really wanted to see how the White Scars played before their actual stuff came out. So it's very interesting because these are rare, really rare opportunities for us to observe that. Fred has won a 34-player 5-round grand tournament in Illinois in United States. And let's see what he has got for us here. So we have Korsar Khan, of course, he is the White Scars guy. I'm so happy to see him being used. He gives his squad Lance and Assault, so it's an interesting kind of combination of two things. And honestly, this list has a lot of weird stuff. As you can see, it's a bit of a mishmash of everything. I'm pretty sure that he's going to be leading the company heroes. He's also theoretically able to lead the intercessors, but I'm like 99% sure that company heroes are for him. So they can, it means that they can advance and shoot their big heavy bolter, which it's a pretty good heavy bolter, I'll be honest with you. And also, obviously, they have lance all the time for him and for the company champion. So not a bad little squad, and not expensive as well. It also gives OC 3 to the Outriders. So we have 3 Outriders in this list. They sure do benefit from it. I have a Lieutenant with a combi weapon, an amazing scoring choice. I've already said that like a million times on this channel, and I'm gonna continue saying it until we change the 11th edition. Maybe he's not gonna be as good anymore, but for now he's just amazing. I have him in every single list of mine, multiples of him actually. I have 5 intercessors, again, probably the thing that is holding the home objective, keeping it safe, and yeah, I have nothing against that. It's a pretty solid choice, not worse and better than any other thing. I mean, I prefer things that are just a bit cheaper to get a bit more in points, but I can also see the benefit of having the sticky on that home objective in case I ever need to leave it. I have a Brutalis Dreadnought. We don't have a Stormraven, so it's very unusual to see like a White Scars list that is not a Stormlance and has a Brutalis but doesn't have a Stormraven. So this guy's just going to be running up the board with his 8-inch move. I am really unhappy that he still has the 8-inch move. He should have a 10-inch move that he used to have, because he just doesn't work as a melee Dreadnought if he moves the same amount of inches as a Redemptor. In my humble opinion, it doesn't make sense. He should have a 10-inch move, but for now he doesn't. What he has is his wonderful Charge Mortals ability, so you can stack that on top of the Tank Shock and just get quite a lot of mortal wounds on the target even before they get to fight. So in some cases, it can be very useful. For example, if you are charging something that is fights first, like a fights first character, for example, you can kill a lot of him or his squad before he gets to fight, and that can be powerful. The company heroes we've already mentioned. We have 5 Desolation Marines, which are most likely going to be riding in one of the Repulsor Executioners, I assume. It's interesting to see them here. I mean, I like the Desolation Marines in Gladius in general, because we do have access to Storm of Fire. Ignoring cover and potentially getting +1 AP on Desolation Marines is cool. It gives you a lot of ability to reach out and touch some maybe softer scoring choices that your opponent has. I am surprised that this is in a list that doesn't have like a Impulsor, for example, which is a more efficient use of space for them, and plus they can shoot from the open top. But I mean, they are good still inside the Repulsor Executioner, which we have 2 of them here, and I take it that the other 5-man squad, probably going to be the Infernus Marines, are riding in the second one. That's at least my understanding of the list at the moment. The Incursors are most likely going to be outside doing their scouty things and just scoring and applying +1 to hit for the Repulsor Executioners to destroy something more easily. 2 Invader ATVs, very good pieces for scoring and just generally speaking extremely efficient. 60 points are probably the most efficient point-for-point model/unit in the Space Marine Codex at the moment. 3 Outriders, again surprising. I mean, if this was a White Scars detachment with Sabot and Khan, I would not be surprised to see 3 Outriders, but here without him, it's all very interesting, as if Fred was writing a list that will be just converted into a White Scars Stormlance-esque detachment after it releases. And to add to my confusion, we also have a Repulsor. So like we have 14 seats, and I don't really know who's going to occupy them. I assume probably going to be 3 Assault Centurions. I mean, it's the most logical explanation because they take up 9 seats, and then the remaining seats can be probably occupied by the Kursara Khan and the company heroes, because yeah, that gives us exactly 14. Yeah, it's exactly 14. So I guess, yeah, probably that is the intention. So then Repulsor Executioners and the Repulsor are all kind of using up their transport capacity, which is, I like that. I don't like when the transports are not being transporting anything. So a very interesting list. If I saw that in the tournament, I would be confused about a lot of things. The level of how many transports it has, it actually gives you a whole like layer of protection for the stuff inside. And if you play that well, and obviously Fred played it well, you can make it so that when your transport does actually finally get destroyed, the place where the unit that is inside gets disembarked to is going to be somewhere where your opponent cannot reach. So you are essentially getting both movement, extra movement from the transport being there, and also the protection from that unit is not being shot at directly, but instead the transport getting all the shots for the unit inside. I am surprised to see such a strange variety of like shooting and melee and like in Furnace Marines. It feels like Fred just took all these units that he loved and put a list out of them, and it somehow worked. So I always respect when that happens. It's not often when it's such a complicated game as 40K, things like that are achievable. Very often we see like more or less like the previous one that we saw, where it's very obvious that the author is like adding the stuff that is the most efficient and adding the maximum amount of it to build the most powerful list, which there's nothing wrong about it. But seeing this kind of a monster mash list, not monster in this case, infantry mash, is really heartwarming. So great job, Fred. And I guess the lesson for us here is that if you know how to play your list well and you do hit those damage thresholds, so you can kill stuff actually, it doesn't really matter if it all very piecemeal and not really feels like a cohesive force in the sense of like you're not taking multiples of units. It doesn't matter. It still can work. So great job, Fred, and we move on. Now, Hunter Nichols. So first of all, it's a very, very Space Wolf name. I think if your name is Hunter, you must play Space Wolves, and in my humble opinion, you also must play the Saga of the Hunter. It would be just such an epic victory if your name is Hunter and you win a tournament with a detachment that is called Saga of the Hunter. It's still very epic. I'm not going to take away from the great result. It's just I thought about that and I wanted you guys to think about that as well. He won a 49-player 6-round grand tournament in Mobile, Sweet Home, Alabama on October 11th, 2025. So let's look at this list. We have Arjak or Aryak. He is not going to be leading a squad of Terminators. I don't think so. He is probably going to be solo because I think that Logan is actually going to be leading the 10 Wolf Guard Terminators unit. And to be honest, Arjak is very good as a solo character as well. He doesn't really need anyone in his unit. He feels very self-sufficient. If you look at him, I don't think you're going to have any questions about that. Bjorn the Fell-Handed, who is the Warlord, he has his CP generation that is very helpful for the army. We have Lieutenant with the combi weapon. I've already mentioned why he's amazing. We have Logan Grimnar, so that guy is really good because he has a gigantic base and he has the ability to bring a unit back from reserves turn earlier, and he also has a 12-inch auto of Vect. So when he drops down, like there's just going to be a lot of problems for your opponent in getting those command points, and if you are smart about how you deploy him, it can cause a lot of problems and your opponent it will be rough. If you know how to use him, it can be very rough. We have Murderfang, who's essentially just a tactical nuclear missile that you send into your opponent's lines and hope that he takes a lot of stuff on his way out of this horrible nightmare of a world in 40K. You can reroll advance and charge rolls for him, so he is going to get where he is going. Most likely he has a 9-inch move and advance and charge rerollable. So yeah, it's very, very hard to stop him, and he has 8 attacks with sustained hits 1, twin linked at strength 14, AP 2, damage 3. I honestly think his claws should be AP 3. They look AP 3 to me. I don't know why they would be AP 2 when there are things like, I don't know, the Lion's Sword, is it called? With the one that Ezreal has, who is AP4. I think these claws need to be AP3. Maybe not AP4, but AP3 would make more sense to me. And also talking about what would make more sense to me, I think Bjorn's, if you look at him, he's the lower left dreadnought. I think his claw, I think it's called True Claw, it's supposed to have a sweep profile, because I look at that and I just see him twisting it like very fast, like a blender, and blending 1 wound infantry. It doesn't make sense that he doesn't have a sweep profile, to me at least. I feel like he should have a sweep profile on that one. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. I think I at least like that idea, but maybe I'm being biased. I've not 1, but 2 Wolfguard battle leaders who are essentially the lieutenant equivalent of the Space Wolves. They are great characters. They fight really really well in combat. They hit on 2s, they have a lot of attacks, namely they have 7 attacks with a power weapon. Don't ask me why they have 7 attacks, I don't know, it just, they're really, really good, I guess. And they have 5 attacks with the Thunderhammer, if you want to take the Thunderhammer, and they also give sustain hits 1 to their squad, reroll 1s to hit, and also fight on death. So yeah, really, I mean, fight on death for himself, personally. A really, really good character, and he's going to be leading 2 squads of Wolfguard head takers. So yeah, we're going deep into the elite territory here. By the way, there's a typo there. 6-man Wolfguard head taker squad is not 110 points. It's more than that, so ignore that, please. Interestingly enough, I would say it would make sense for the Wolfguard head takers to go into the Stormraven, who's in this list, but they cannot fit because the Stormraven can only hold up to 12 guys. Obviously, the Murderfang is going into the Stormraven. I don't even need to ask that, I'm sure. But the 2 Wolfguard Belliers, they kind of break that, so you cannot have 7 models and 7 models. It will be 14. So I don't know, maybe we have 1 squad of the head takers in the Stormraven and maybe someone else inside it, maybe Aryak, I don't know. It can be him, honestly, because he would take 2 more slots. It would be 9, so you're only missing out on 3 then. So yeah, I'm curious to see like how was he filling up the Stormraven. But one thing is for certain, Murderfang is strapped behind the Stormraven and he's like crying and trying to punch his own plane, and he's just being very angry until he's released onto the enemy. And we have a singular 6-man Thunderwolf Cavalry squad, no leaders, obviously. These guys are good. They can advance automatically 9 inches and then charge. Really good melee profile if you actually make them connect and you give them lance, because their only issue is the strength. Strength 5 is really, really low, so you need to give them +1 to wound. But as soon as they have +1 to wound, most of their problems are solved, and they can get those damage 2, damage 3 hits onto the target. They are going to be pretty efficient. So a good squad for sure. And to round that off, we have 5 infiltrators who cost 100 points. They protect us from other enemy units and their deep strike and shenanigans. It's always good to have that peace of mind. And we have 5 intercessors, again for the same scoring duty. It's funny that all 3 lists that we looked at today had the same home scoring unit choice. And obviously the aforementioned 10 Wolfguard veterans with Terminators, which I assume are led by Logan Grimnar. But to be honest, now that I think of it, I think Logan takes up 4 seats in the plane. So does it work if Aryak is... No, Aryak is not there. Then if it's 7 guys plus 4, that would be 11 seats. So honestly, Logan can be a solo guy and Aryak can lead the Terminator squad, I actually don't know. It may be either or, to be honest. Because Logan doesn't really give much to his own unit. The reason why he would need to be on the board is just to use his once per battle round. In your movement phase, you can select 1 friendly Space Wolves unit that is in strategic reserves to come down turn 1. So potentially, yeah, that would be the only reason why he probably would need to be on the table, not inside the Stormraven. But other than that, I really like the idea of him just embarking into the Stormraven being this gigantic monster of a guy, and him being right in the center of the board actually makes a lot of sense. The only issue is that even though he has 8 wounds on him and toughness 5, 2+ save, he's still very much killable. So I like him more inside a squad rather than solo. I think going solo is more of a Arjak job instead of the Logan, to be honest. Really good, really classic Space Wolves list. If you know me, you know what I'm gonna say. I don't like when lists don't have shooting. I don't believe in that. Obviously, looking at the result, it can be played very efficiently, just not my style. I like to be active in all the phases. That's why I love 9th edition, where I could have like a psychic army, because I could have damage output in the psychic phase, damage output in the shooting phase, and then the charge phase. And they usually made me very happy. In this case, we are only playing really in the fight phase. I mean, the Stormraven does have some guns for sure, but other than that, it's pretty much all charge. So you need to be really careful. You need to be even more calculating about how your turn is going to go than with a combined arms army. But obviously Hunter really did a great job with that stuff, so congratulations on a great result. And yeah, I like this list. It's very clean. It's like a It's like a very nice aesthetic version of Space Wolves. I wish that players were using more of the original Space Wolves supplement detachments. Unfortunately, GW went a bit too far into that kind of skewed melee list variant for them. And one thing that I'm personally not happy about is the lack of fallback and charge in I think 2 of the 3 detachments in the Space Wolf supplement. So that's one thing that holds them back for me personally. But other than that, great result for Hunter, and Stormlance is again proving to be a very, very good Space Marines detachment. Let me know what you think about these 3 lists. I really liked all of them. I specifically love the second one just because of how strange it is, and I am a fan of Raven Guard, so anytime I see a good Raven Guard list, it makes my heart happy. And I'll be honest, Space Wolves too, so it was just a great experience for me. I hope it was the same for you. Let me know in the comment section what you would change in either of these lists, and I'll see you next time.